Coming to you from the TheEoNProject studios, overlooking the vast, pristine acreage of Primrose Village. Greetings from this hidden gem of the Blackstone Valley. You're listening to Experts of Nothing with Mike and Jay.
Hola, amigo.
Oh, hey, friend.
You can also listen to us in Spanish by pressing the SAP button on your radio.
What does SAP stand for?
Spanish and people.
People?
Yeah.
Do you think that onion rings are a healthy alternative to French fries? Like if you order a combo meal and you say, "Give me the onion rings instead of the fries," do you feel like you're doing something right?
I would say that most people would say yes because onions are considered a vegetable, right?
That's right.
But however, it's not.
It's not a vegetable?
No, it is not a healthy alternative.
Oh.
Because of the oils that are absorbed by the breadings.
The fried breaded nature of it?
Yeah, it makes it worse than the French fry, if I'm not mistaken.
I like them, though. I like the French fries.
Of course,
the onion
everybody
rings,
likes
excuse me.
onion rings, but they're just not good for you.
You know, I was at a restaurant last night and I had steak fries.
Yeah, but they're not made out of steak. See, they lie.
No, but they're thick,
Why
wide
they call
cut.
it steak fries?
They're wide cut.
Just like beefsteak tomatoes. Those are not made out of meat. It's tomato.
There's a local eating establishment here. It's I'm going to give them a plug. I don't
Eating
care. Maybe they listen to the show. Maybe they'll give us free food.
Maybe.
It's called Cello's. And there's several locations here in the
I too enjoy cellos.
Rhode Island area. And there's a staple, a very signature sandwich that they have there. It's a roast beef sandwich on a bulky roll.
Yes, I've had it many, many times.
And it just comes the meat on the roll.
It's just meat and roll.
So you got to add a little A1 sauce to
No,
it.
excuse me.
Yes.
You add A1 sauce to your giant roast beef from
You have
Cello's?
to. You have to.
Why?
You have to add a little bit of
You
savoriness.
don't have to add A1 sauce.
Yes,
it's
you
perfect
do.
the way it is.
You can't eat the meat
No,
like
yes,
that.
yes, it's fine. It's juicy roast beef.
It's too dry.
It's not too dry. It's juicy.
It's too dry.
It's so juicy, in fact, that the roll itself becomes all gooey and groupy.
It only becomes moist if you put a little bit of a
No,
topping
it's
on
not
it.
true. It's delicious the way. And you know what? You're ruining life by putting A1 sauce in everything. Let me tell you something. A1 sauce is overrated. It's first of all, you've bought A1 sauce in the store, right? You've ever bought it before?
Yes.
It's very expensive. It's like $6 for a little bottle.
That's because it's brown gold glory in a
it's
bottle.
It's overpowering in nature. And you know what? My wife actually told me something about A1 sauce that I didn't know. It has anchovy paste in it.
It does.
Which makes it even worse.
You don't like anchovies?
No.
What is an anchovy?
It's a fish.
Is it a fish or the way that you prepare the fish?
I don't know. I thought it was a kind of fish.
Anyway, it was a good sandwich.
A1 sauce ruins everything. Don't buy it.
And then I put vinegar on my steak fries, and my wife gets mad at me.
Oh, I
because
like
it smells
vinegar.
like farts.
No, I like to put malt vinegar on French fries.
Yummy.
Anyway, sorry we devolved into arguments about A1 sauce, but so this week's episode we're going to tease the topic. We're going to talk about something that's a very interesting phenomenon that's occurred over the years, and that is famous people who have faked their own death, or
Possibly.
Perhaps they did, perhaps they didn't.
Sure.
Some of them you've heard of, some of them you probably haven't.
That's right.
But what did we do last week? We had a very good show last week.
I don't really remember.
We talked about the most outlandish conspiracy theories of all time.
Oh, we did. Yes.
And some of them, we got some good feedback from that program.
We had that promotion going on too.
Yep.
Still going on.
Still going on.
Get a free custom guitar if you leave the 100th review on iTunes. We're up to about
we got like
seven-ish
7,000
reviews.
We have a lot of reviews. They're coming in. They're coming in droves.
Fast and furious type. Like,
yeah, go to iTunes. Give us a rating. Five is good. Give us a good plug.
we haven't
stuff down.
the ratings we do have. We haven't had one less than 5.
No, they've been great. So thank you for your support of this program.
Oh, thanks.
Anyway.
Yeah, so we have a.
You know what? Before
go
you
ahead.
get to that, I want to mention something. On the way over here to the palatial TheEoNProject studios, I noticed that the access road, as you come up towards the security gate, where the machine gun turret is,
Yes.
there's a lot of potholes.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask you, you're a very, you're a very valuable member of the community, upstanding. Can't you get these potholes fixed? They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Potholes everywhere. They just eat your tires up.
This is it's really it's a Rhode Island thing. It's like a virus in this state because we're poor. The state is poor. Well, because they mismanage the money.
Oh, well,
who doesn't? They never have money to fix it. Fix the roads and things.
But yet they still ask for your money.
But did you see where Domino's is fixing potholes? What is up with that?
I did see that. Yeah, it's some sort of publicity stunt where they come out and fix your potholes if you report them.
Oh, anyway, halfway point of the show, we're promoting a new musical act here on the program.
Cool.
And we love music.
This is a real musical act, not the fake ones that we've put out in the past.
That's right. No. This is real. This is an actual band, which we'll talk more about. We're going to play their song, and we'll talk more about them about halfway through the program. Yeah.
So let's just dive right in.
Let's dive.
Because we have a lot of material.
Don't dive into the shallow end, though.
We're going to talk today about celebrity. Well, it's important to know. We're going to talk about famous people who have maybe faked their own death. But when you do research into people faking their own death, it is something that happens a lot with normal folk. But those stories are less interesting, and you wouldn't know these people anyway. Most of the time, people fake their own death because they want to get out of
debt
or marriages that they don't like.
Trying to avoid the mafia.
Yeah. But, in today's world, I was actually discussing with a friend of the program the other day, Mr. Jeff, who actually is opening up his new establishment, the Outhouse Restaurant and Bar, down in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So
Hi, Jeff.
Quick plug out to Jeff, who listens to this program. Anyway, we're discussing, imagine how easy it must have been to disappear 50 years ago, 100 years ago. You could probably just disappear pretty easy.
Yeah.
And they didn't have, you didn't have credit card receipts to track you. You didn't have cell phones. You could just disappear into the wilderness. Today, it's probably a lot harder to disappear and fake your own death.
That's right.
But anyway, so the first person we're going to talk about, and you're going to see kind of a recurring theme in a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today, and that's because of a lot of the fake their own death celebrity stories involve the music industry. Some don't, but some do, and I don't know why that is. But the music industry has long been one for fantastical stories and lore and legends and things like that.
I think maybe because the music lives on. You could be dead 50
no, that's
years.
a great point. Because you how can they be dead? I can still hear his voice.
Exactly.
Oh. So the first person I'm going to talk about is actually really interesting because of that very thing. You remember the early 1990s, right?
Oh, what a good time that was.
Great time.
In my life.
Good times in
I was at parties, drunken parties.
Yep.
They were girls.
You weren't assaulting anyone.
No, absolutely
Good thing you're not being nominated for the Supreme Court.
I'd be in trouble.
Yeah. Anyway, the early 90s was a great time, especially for hip-hop music. Hip-hop really became a big thing back in the early 90s. You had Dr. Dre, you had Snoop Doggity Dogg, and Biggie Smalls, the notorious B.I.G. But perhaps the best of them, and one of the most talented hip-hop artists of all time, was none other than Mr. Tupac Shakur.
Oh, Tupac.
You've heard of Tupac. That wasn't his birth name. I had it written down, but that wasn't his
birth name?
No, it was actually changed to
It was 3Pac. And then he didn't realize he wasn't as tall as they thought, and so they called him Tupac.
It may have been. But in the early 90s, Mr. Tupac was everywhere. He had hit records. He was starring in movies. He was in that movie Poetic Justice with Janet Jackson.
Oh, that was Janet Jackson. Yeah,
Janet Jackson. And then he was in Above the Rim with some other people.
Okay.
Anyway, he was in a bunch of movies. And he came from the streets. He was born in New York City, but he moved into Los Angeles in the 1980s. But soon after becoming famous, he became embroiled in the whole East Coast, West Coast rap war. Which side were you on in the East Coast, West Coast?
Oh, I was an
war?
East Coast rapper.
Yeah?
Why? No, I don't know. My rapping days, my love of rap music ended with the Fat Boys when they started dying
the Fat
off.
Boys. You know what? The Fat Boys did Wipeout. It was
Yeah.
a very famous video. I had it on tape. I had it on VHS tape, so watch it over and over again.
That's right.
Love that video.
They were in a good movie called The Disorderlies as well.
Disorderlies.
They played 3 overweight comedic orderlies in a
Whatever happened to the Fat Boys? They all
nursing
died
home.
of diabetes.
Probably.
Anyway, so soon after getting famous, he got involved in this whole East Coast, West Coast rap war, which I admittedly understand very little, as I just demonstrated. In any case, September 9th, 1996, Mr. Tupac, which I keep calling him, and a friend / criminal mastermind, Suge Knight. You ever see Suge Knight? He's just an enormous dude.
He's large.
He's a big dude. Hey, actually, you know what? Suge Knight is a very controversial figure in the hip hop industry. He's been to jail a few times. He's known for his gangsterish antics,
Sure,
running his business. But a very famous, real quick anecdote I heard about him. Remember when Vanilla Ice first came famous?
Yes.
In the 90s, and he proclaimed he was from the streets. Actually, he was not. He was like middle class kid, and you ever see him now? He has a home improvement show.
He does. He's reinvented himself.
Seems like a pretty good dude anyway. But back in the day, he claimed he was from the streets. But anyway, there's a famous story about Suge Knight and his men apparently hanging Vanilla Ice over a balcony, many stories in the air.
Right, by his ankles.
For some reason, I don't know what he did.
He pissed them off for some reason.
Anyway, so Tupac was at this Mike Tyson fight, September 9th, 1996 in Las Vegas. And after leaving the fight, persons unknown drove alongside the vehicle that Tupac was a passenger in and shot him multiple times. He lingered in the hospital for a few days and he later died. Or so you think.
So you think.
For years, people have speculated that Tupac faked his own death. This speculation is probably fueled by the fact that months and even years after his supposed death, Tupac continued to release new music.
That's right.
Now, we know that, a lot of times musical artists record lots of material that either sometimes gets released, sometimes it doesn't get released, sometimes it gets moved on to later, or never gets released to the public at all. So that explains why he would still be coming out with music. A lot of the stuff that artists record never gets released. But it's cooler to think that maybe he was alive and faked his own death. And you'd think that would be the end of it. And you'd be wrong.
Oh. Why am I wrong?
We have more to discuss.
Oh.
We have evidence of Tupac.
We have evidence of him being alive?
Being alive. Well, kind of. And this is actually where the story even gets weirder than it normally is. In July 2018, which is just a few months ago,
yep,
a man calling himself Noah appeared on Apex TV, which is a website / YouTube channel thingy that specializes in paranormal stuff and weird. What are you doing over there?
And that nobody ever goes to or visits?
Apex TV.
Never heard of it.
Specializes in all that weird stuff. Anyway, Noah claimed to be a time traveler from the year 2030, and he was stuck in our present time. In addition to making all sorts of claims about the future, this guy Noah was actually taking calls and taking questions from people about the future. You could call into this show that he was on,
yep,
and ask him some questions. So somebody called in and asked him about Tupac, and Noah stated, indeed, Tupac is alive in 2030, and that he faked his own death in 1996. He was actually shot in an assassination attempt by the Illuminati, who wanted to kill Tupac because he refused to join their organization.
Whoa.
They shot him, and so his friends and family conspired to say that he was dead to keep him from the clutches of the Illuminati.
Well, let me ask you this. If the Illuminati was involved, wouldn't they find a more interesting and more secretive way to kill somebody than a drive-by shooting?
You would think so. They would make it cooler somehow. But if you ever want to laugh or waste a few precious life minutes, look up Apex TV. They have all sorts of videos about time travelers, UFOs, and whatnots. Everything looks 100% fake.
Yeah.
It's terrible. This guy Noah, I actually did watch a video with him. Complete nonsense. The guy is not even a good actor.
So if I click on Apex TV, will it bring me to some other strange sites, or
no?
It's like a virus on my computer.
It's like a repository of videos for this kind of thing.
Not a suppository.
No, that's something different. That requires you to lie on your side and lubricate.
Oh, it sounds like you've had a few of those in your day.
Perhaps. Anyway, so Tupac's alive in 2030. So look out for that.
Well, how old would he be by 2030? You think?
Well, let's see. He was only 20. Was he 20? He was young man. He was only in
mid-20s?
Early 20s, yeah.
Okay.
When he was killed.
So 20, how many is this? 20, 15, 25, 30? How many?
I don't know, man. I'm not good at math.
All right, whatever. He'd be older.
Anyway, so Tupac's still alive.
That's your proof?
Well, yeah, Noah says so. He's a time traveler from the year 2030.
Okay.
You ever notice that the time travelers, and this, not to go off the deep end on this, but there was another video that I watched on Apex TV, not to give them a plug. This guy claimed to be from our time, but he traveled to the year 5000 to see things. And according to him, the Earth is covered with water.
Okay.
And people live on top of the water, kind of floating around.
Sounds
which
like
I've heard this before.
Sounds like Waterworld.
Called Waterworld with Kevin Costner, which is a terrible movie.
Oh, that's great.
Although Dennis Hopper was in it, and he was
Jean Triplehorn was in that.
Jean Triplehorn was in it. She was an attractive lady back.
You think so? She's got an odd look to her.
She's a unique look.
Did you enjoy the gills?
No. But anyway,
would you be into gill play if a lady had gills on her neck?
This fetish is for everything, man.
Oh, all right.
But anyway, Dennis Hopper played a pretty good role in that movie.
Yeah.
He's an interesting actor.
Yeah.
Anyway, where was I going with that? Oh, yeah. So he visited the year 5000. The Earth is covered with water. And supposedly he brought back proof. And he showed it on TV. Mm-hmm. He took a picture.
Of the latest iPhone.
No. Oh. He took a picture of Los Angeles.
Okay.
Covered with water. And he showed it to the camera. Now, what this looks like is a picture of Los Angeles that someone colored water over the top of. You have to check it out. It's awesome.
Okay.
You would think that in the year 5000 they would have better equipment to document something like that.
Something along those lines that drives me crazy. Have you ever been, you've been to, movies, you've been to sporting events, things that have stadium-style seating, correct?
Yeah, I love stadium-style seating.
So one thing that drives me nuts is people with poor stadium seating etiquette.
Oh, you mean like they stand up in front of you?
Well, no. Yeah, but here's an example of something that I recently was subjected to, okay? I was at a sporting event, and I was in a row of people, okay? And on my end, there were like 3 or 4 people on the end of this row, okay? There was another man in the middle of directly in the middle of the row, and then to his right, there was only like one other person, okay? So the stairwells on either side of the row were equidistant to this man.
Oh, and he tried to push past you.
He
instead
got
of going
up
the
and
other
he
way.
went by my side, which inconvenienced 4 or 5 people.
Yes.
Why would he go that way? Why wouldn't he go the other way?
I don't know. But you know, it brings up a good point because and I know that I'm much larger than I was when I was a child, but to me it seems like they made these seats smaller and they make the space between them smaller. You used to be able to just, kind of scoot your legs,
move
to,
your
the
legs to the
side,
side.
and
No,
then
you
can
can't.
you can't do that. You got to actually stand up.
You got to get up and you got to
Yeah.
push back, and sometimes they rub against you, and they're
sometimes
moving.
their butt is in your face.
It's okay when
sometimes that's good, but
it's
sometimes
okay when it's an
bad.
attractive
Right.
older lady.
Sure,
But a man?
like a triple cougar.
Anyway, I was mad.
Anyway, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and people should have more courtesy. Or you know what's even better? And I think you're the same way as me. It drives my wife crazy. I have to be extremely early for everything. Every event, movies, shows, sporting events, I have to be there early. And if it's not assigned seating, I like to sit on the end,
Yes.
so that I can get out easy. Right? I want to be able to sit on the aisle. So
We
I can
use the
get up.
bathroom a lot.
Or
so-
use the bathroom, or just to get out if there's an emergency. I'm always thinking tactically.
Sure.
Tactically proficiency. And anyway, it drives me nuts that people expect you to move down. No, I was here.
I'm not moving.
I'm not moving.
No.
You get the middle seat, and you get stuck when the gunfire starts.
That's right.
Anyway.
All right. What do you got next?
All right. So next, this is one that actually has a lot of history behind it. So this one, it could fill multiple shows in and of itself, but we won't do that today. We will just get into we will braise the topic. A man who needs no introduction, a person so evil and disgusting that people call their political opponents by his name, even though the real person was infinitely more terrible person than anyone you can imagine, Adolf Elizabeth Hitler. Do you know his middle name was Elizabeth?
No.
Yes, he was descended from a long line of English queens.
Okay.
Anyway, as we all know, Hitler was the most hated man in the world around the time of World War II, and for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
As we all know from our studies, did you study? Did you do a lot of studying?
I did a little studying, but I was pretty smart in school.
As we all know from our studies, Germany bit off a little more than it could chew by trying to fight a world war on multiple fronts, and I'm not going to get into World War II specifically. However, by the spring of 1945, it began to be accepted by most people in the world, including the German army, that they were going to lose. Hiding out in his bunker in Berlin with his concubine, one Eva Braun, who was actually pretty attractive.
She wasn't bad.
She was not bad. Hitler was not a good-looking dude.
No, and he was much older than her.
He did well for himself with Eva Braun. Of course, she was a crazy evil person too, I think. Well, to be with him. What kind of sex life you think they had?
Not much. I think it was
No?
asexual.
You think so?
Yeah,
Really?
I think so.
Did you see
I think
things about that?
I think Hitler was impotent.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's hiding out with Eva Braun in the bunker in Berlin. And he was despondent at this point, spring of 1945. He was so close to achieving world domination, but now it looked like any moment he was going to get sacked by the encroaching Russian army who was making it into the city limits. According to most accounts, at this point, Hitler issued orders to his most loyal troops that they should retreat to the mountains and conduct guerrilla operations against the enemies of Mother Germany for as long as possible. And then on 30th of April 1945, he commenced to shooting himself in the head in his Berlin bunker. Eva Braun died also. She took cyanide poisoning. Then, based on orders that he gave prior to his suicide, Hitler and his wife, or she was actually his wife for one day. They got married.
Oh, that's right.
And then the next day they killed themselves. He had issued orders that their bodies were to be taken out of the bunker and doused in gasoline and set afire so that they would not be defiled by the advancing Russians.
That's right.
So that ends the story. Or does it?
Not the History Channel doesn't think so.
No. Conspiracy theories about Hitler faking his own death and escaping Germany actually started almost immediately because after the German leader died. Because in 1945, July 1945, just a couple months after this, at a press conference, Russian leader Joseph Stalin himself was asked how Hitler died, and Stalin said, quote, "He's living in Spain or Argentina." Was this a joke?
Was it?
Stalin didn't seem to be much like a comedian. Did you think he was? No.
Yeah, he seemed kind of
Kind of a serious dude.
He had a serious mustache, though.
He did. Based on the Stalin statement, a kind of sort of mythology started to grow that Hitler had in fact escaped and was living in South America. This isn't as far-fetched as one might think, as multiple Nazi officers and political folk did in fact make it out of Germany after the war, and they settled in South America. Adolf Eichmann
That's right.
was a SS lieutenant colonel who was responsible for the death camps of Auschwitz and Treblinka and amongst other nasty things.
Actually, they just made a movie about that. Did you see that?
No, what was it called?
It was called The Finale, I believe.
Oh!
And it starred the guy that played Poe Dameron in the Star Wars movies.
Poe, yes.
I think his name is Isaac or Oscar Isaac. But they made a movie about that, about the
Eichmann?
search for Eichmann in South America.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because he was he was responsible for the death camp, so he was not a nice man. But he escaped to Brazil and was actually working in a Mercedes-Benz plant when Israeli Mossad agents tracked him down in 1960. He was brought back and he was actually hung. Is it hang or hunged?
He was hunged.
He was hunged.
He's hung?
Good for him.
Or he was hanged?
Yeah. Anyway, Joseph Mengele, the Nazi who actually did disgusting medical experiments on prisoners and mostly women and kids in the Auschwitz death camp, also made it to South America, where despite years later he was living under his own name, no one could seem to deport him. They had some sort of legal fight to get him back, and he was eluding authorities, and he was living in South America. Anyway, he lived until 1979 when he died he drowned while swimming. Apparently he had some sort of
I think he had a stroke.
hemorrhage or stroke or something, and he died in Brazil.
So he never came.
Came to justice.
That's right.
In 1979, so he lived a really long time after the.
You know what else is in South America that we still never found?
What?
The Nazi bell. You remember?
Oh yes.
The Die Glocke.
Die Glocke. Anyway, so did Hitler escape and live in South America? I know there's a lot of conjecture that he may have, but besides that theory, there's actually a lot of theories. Too many to count here, but here's just a few quick ones. According to some theories, Hitler escaped in a submarine that went to a secret Nazi base in Antarctica. To do what? We don't know. It's cold down there. Do penguins live in Antarctica, or is it the Arctic?
They live in Antarctica. There are no penguins in the north.
There are no penguins in the north.
That's right.
But there are polar bears.
There are polar bears in the north.
Do polar bears eat penguins?
There are no polar bears in the south.
So they can't eat penguins.
So they don't come together at any time.
See, I like penguins. Penguins look like cool dudes. I'd like to hang out with a penguin.
Oh.
They seem like nice guys. Anyway, so potentially he went to Antarctica. So there is actually evidence that the Nazis did send exploratory missions to Antarctica before and during World War II, but we're not quite sure what the hell they were doing there.
Sure.
They were just examining the ice flows or something.
Ooh.
Here's another one. He went to the moon. The Nazis built a base on the moon somehow.
Yeah.
Decades before the technology existed to get people to the moon. But supposedly...
Well, they had the Nazis had secret advanced technologies.
Well, yes, that's true. However, the most talented Nazi scientists were actually brought to America in Operation Paperclip, as you may or may not know, and were used in our space program. So theoretically, they would not have... If they couldn't get to the moon until 20 years after that, then how were they doing it before that and building bases? Anyway. To add to the actual mystery surrounding Hitler's death, the people who had possession of Hitler's remains, namely the Russians, were the ones that were spreading rumors that he was still alive. They did this as part of a disinformation campaign against the West. As we all know, this was the beginning of what would become the Cold War.
Right.
So for many years, the Russians had these bones, but refused to have them tested or released. Finally, March and July, which is weird how it happened in 2 months. In 2017, the Russian Foreign Service Bureau, their successor to the KGB, gave a French team of pathologists access to Hitler's jawbone and teeth.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, how did I miss this? This is interesting.
It was well documented that the Nazi leader had notoriously bad teeth and gum disease, which led to extremely bad breath.
He looks like he'd have stinky breath.
He does look like that. He looks like a jerk. By the end of his life, he only had a few of his original teeth left, which left him with a complicated set of bridges and dentures. That, according to this forensic team, made identifying his jawbone relatively simple. His teeth appeared to match X-rays taken of Hitler's teeth in 1944, and descriptions provided to the Soviets by Hitler's dentists themselves proved that these were Hitler's teeth.
Yep.
The teeth are authentic. There's no possible doubt. This is a quote by Philippe Charrier.
Philippe Chapelle, la préfecture, avant
lead author of the study. So they supposedly were able to prove these were Hitler's teeth, and unless he's running around without a jawbone, he died in the bunker in 1945.
Did you see that movie Downfall? It's a movie about the final days of Adolf Hitler. Came out a few years ago. It's all in German.
No.
Wow.
It's all in German? I don't know if I could watch that.
No, you got to watch it.
No.
You think it would be annoying and difficult to watch? It's not. It's probably the most amazing...
The guy who plays Hitler's
yes,
good?
the most amazing portrayal of Hitler you've ever seen.
You know, the guy who played Hitler in the Inglourious Bastards movie was good, too.
Oh, this guy blows him out of the water.
He's not in it very much, but... Did you like that movie, Inglourious Bastards? The guy, Christoph Waltz, puts on an amazing performance. Great actor.
It's good.
He's great.
So anyway, my thoughts on this Hitler theory.
Yeah.
I don't... there is that television show, Finding Hitler or Hunting Hitler, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. If you know anything about Hitler in his final days,
yes,
medically he had a lot of problems.
He did.
Right? He had Parkinson's, bad. Mentally, he was not in the right state of mind. He was on numerous drugs. He had been He'd been medicated for years and years and some heavy-ass stuff. Mm-hmm. And so even if he would have survived the war, he wouldn't have lived much longer after that, I don't believe.
Well, they put out, and of course the Germans were still trying to fulminate the resistance to the encroaching Allies, so they put out a statement that Hitler was killed gloriously in battle while leading his men,
right?
Which is obviously not true. He killed himself, and supposedly he took cyanide pills and then shot himself for some reason.
Right.
Probably took the cyanide pills. He's like, "Holy crap, this hurts!" And then he shot himself.
Yeah, I mean, plus, I don't think his ego would have allowed him to be captured anyway. As you said, he didn't want his body to be. He didn't want to be treated like Mussolini when he was captured.
That's right. Mussolini got messed up,
dragged through the square and hung by his ankles.
Well,
or whatever.
That's actually better than what happened to Gaddafi, who was sodomized with a knife.
Yeah, that's not good.
Anyway, so that's the Hitler story. He died in 1945. He's not still alive. But you know what? It's interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt you, step on you, but I think when you have such a large personality and such a large figure, I guess it's difficult for people to think that that he would die,
right?
That especially that quickly and that suddenly. I mean, and they took a poll, and I'm just doing research for this program. They took a poll of people in 1945, and it was like 70% of the population thought he was still alive. So it's just difficult for people to wrap their head around the fact that he would be dead.
That's true. Wrap your head around it.
Wrap your head. I don't understand that term. Wrap your head around it. How do you wrap your head around anything?
Well, your brain, your thought processes.
How do you wrap it around?
Well, you're trying to envelop it. You're trying to understand it.
I don't know.
All right, so here we are at the halfway point of the show.
Okay.
And we're gonna do we like to promote music. We love music here on the program, and I think we might. We've done this in the past where we've played music from up and coming bands.
Yes.
But I think we have to create a name for this segment because we're gonna do it ever so often.
Okay.
So what can we call it?
Well, let's solicit suggestions from our audience. Send us a note at TheEoNProject at yahoo.com. That's TheEoNProject at yahoo.com. You can also get hold of us on Twitter and Facebook.
How about music that's new? Zik. No?
Terrible.
All right. So this band, it's a band called OLC for short, which stands for Overseas Love Crisis.
Ooh.
And that reminds me of when I was overseas.
Yes. That's a cool name.
There were a few crises with some foreign ladies overseas
Still
that
happening.
never were paid for, of course, and they're still hunting me down.
We ran.
The Yakuza is.
The Yakuza.
Anyway, I'm going to read their bio if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Thunderous power chords and soaring vocals meet groovy hip-hop beats and catchy pop riffs and the eclectic music of OLC. Based out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, OLC has been bringing great live music for close to 3 years and is not slowing down. They have opened for national touring acts such as CKY, I don't know what that stands for,
Me neither.
The Dead Daisies, and Spence, and never failed to put on a show that leaves the concert-goer coming back for more. Concert-goer, I should say. OLC is comprised of singer, rhythm guitarist Charles Keane, lead guitarist Brett Welch, bassist Blake Jones, and drummer Ben Schnitz. I'll tell you what, with a drummer named Ben Schnitz, you can't go wrong.
That's a cool name.
You can also find the four switching it up on stage with Blake, Brent, and Ben all taking turns on the vocals. Wow. That's amazing.
Multi-talented.
For someone who's tried to sing, I realize how difficult that can be.
I can't do it either.
Charles whips out a trumpet as well.
Whips out something.
And Brett hitting the drums for Ben to come up and show off his rap skills.
Oh.
These guys are right up my alley.
Eclectic.
Let me just tell you that. While most of their style falls under the pop-punk category, you're hard-pressed to see OLC live and not witness alt-rock, hip-hop, ska, and funk all wrapped up into a set. OLC's newest album, Wannabe, was released on July 12th and can be found on all major streaming services along with their website, which is overseaslovecrisis.com. That's easy to remember.
Yeah.
And you can also find them, obviously, on all the major social media sites and things of that sort.
All right.
So you want to hear them?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Listening to records in the car all alone. We got nowhere to go, so baby take it slow. Feeling like the motion of the ocean, ride the flow. I think I'm on a roll, I'm playing all your shows. Be the one that all our girlfriends really wanna know. Your boyfriend takes me on, cause when you're in his car, you bumping on my tune, speakers boom, and there's nothing you can do to stop. If you gave me one last day to live my life away, I would tell you my heart's beating and
So that's the latest song from OLC, Overseas Love Crisis, called Still Okay.
It's really good.
Soon to be a hit. And, you know, it's actually, that particular song is very reminiscent to me of late 90s, early 2000s, punk, like Blink 182.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the band SR-71. They had one big hit called Right Now. That it reminds me a lot of that.
And what was another band that? There's a few bands that were, like you said, that kind of music was really popular back then.
Exactly, and it's
Sound really good.
Definitely love that kind of music, and I love them.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they want to be on the show, and we can promote them any way we can.
Yep.
And so listen, and go check them out. What'd you think?
I think that if I was a woman,
Yeah,
I'd be a groupie.
I'll tell you what, they must get some ladies. If they if they could sit there and switch instruments and everybody's singing, dancing around, playing trumpets.
What is it about musicians that women, and here's the thing, and this is not just, I'm not, obviously everyone knows that chicks dig musicians, but you could be the big pile of crap as a person. You could be unkempt, unclean. You could have no job. You could have no money. You could have be living in a cardboard box. But if you can strum a guitar, chicks dig you.
It didn't work for me.
It didn't work?
No.
Oh.
I mean, I pluck a few strings now and again.
Yeah, but you're doing pretty good. You have a beautiful wife and a nice home.
Well, it wasn't because of that. It's because I drugged her.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, Cosby.
I shouldn't joke about that.
No.
He just went to jail.
You better not ever be try to get on the Supreme Court.
No, definitely not. So I'm going to start my bit with a bizarre news story. And, as any older, mature, grown men would do, we like to talk about pooping here on the program.
All the time.
So the headline of this is, another mystery mad pooper is terrorizing lawns in New York.
Oh.
Yes.
That's not me. I never go to New York. I hate it.
Oh, crap. Police in New York Village are searching for yet another mad pooper. An unidentified person is currently on a pooping spree in Orchard Park, New York, per the New York Daily Times. Multiple homeowners have allegedly noticed human feces suddenly appearing on their lawns. Now,
how do they know it's human?
I don't know. Maybe just a large dog.
Well, I don't know. Human poop does look a little different from dog poop. It doesn't have like the swirl. Dog
it doesn't
poop
have
has
the swirl?
the swirl.
So what do you think a freestanding pile of human poo looks like?
I don't know, but I would avoid it.
A concerned townsperson went so far to take out an ad in the Orchard Park Penny Saver, a free community periodical. To the person who is pooping on our lawns in the village of OP, she wrote, "Stop.
Stop it. I don't want to pick up your poop."
The ad also states that the homeowner has installed trail cams.
Uh-oh.
We'd imagine this would be the strongest deterrent of all. To get a citation is one thing, but to have your defecation caught on camera seems bad. While this pooper not be a copycat pooper per se, their crimes do resemble those of the infamous Colorado Springs Mad Pooper.
The Mad Pooper.
In September, that jogger defecated numerous times outside one family's home, eschewing the gas station and public restrooms nearby. Eventually, a man claiming to represent the pooper's family apologized for her actions. It was a female!
Oh!
Unbelievable. Attributing her actions to traumatic brain injury.
My traumatic brain injury makes me poop on your lawn.
He also alleged that her right to poop in people's yards was protected under the First Amendment.
It is?
Which is absolutely not true.
No, it's not true.
Stay safe out there, Orchard Park, and when you check that trail cam footage, brace yourself for the S word you might find.
Well, let me ask you this. Are they finding just the poop, or is there paper products? Because if there's no paper products, what's that person doing? What, do they just run around with poop particles sticking out of their butt?
That reminds me of a surveillance video I saw one time. This actually was so stomach churning. I couldn't believe it. It was in a grocery store.
Yeah.
And you see a woman pushing her little cart down one of the aisles, the bread aisle, I believe.
Yes.
She got to the very end, looked behind her, there was nobody in the aisle.
Except the camera.
Dropped her drawers quickly, pinched a loaf near the French bread.
Really?
And then just continued on her way like nothing happened. I don't understand it.
She really had to get that out.
Yes.
That's interesting.
All right, so my next celebrity death hoax, fake death story.
Death.
And we talked earlier about why is it that we find these stories are so prevalent. And I think it depends also, too, on the popularity. In my case, it's a musician, right?
Right.
So this musician was probably one of the biggest, or was the biggest act in music for many, many years, and still has a very huge and loyal following. Mm-hmm. And it's the Elvis Presley is alive story.
Oh, yeah.
And we've all heard this.
We have.
I'm not going to get too far into the weeds on, all the different, why and how and all this stuff. I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but I'm more interested in how this happens.
Right.
Like, why did this happen, right? So we all know Elvis came to be early on in the 50s, early to mid 50s, right? When he first started coming onto the scene.
Well, before you get into that, let me just say about that time period, I didn't know a whole lot about Elvis, but there's this documentary on HBO called The Searcher. It's about Elvis's early life. It's great.
Yeah.
It's very, very good. Elvis was a interesting dude. Came from nothing.
Right.
Like literally nothing. And he used to go to at that time it was segregated and they wouldn't allow black musicians to play in white clubs. So he used to go to the black halls and listen to them play music because they were better.
Right.
And he got a lot of his influences
Sure,
from
you
that.
can hear the influences in his voice and his playing and things of that sort. But interesting facts and side notes, Elvis was actually a twin. He had a twin brother that died at birth. His name was Garon Presley, Garon. And Elvis was actually a natural blonde.
Really?
And he dyed his hair jet black
Because that was the style
all
back
of his
then.
life and slicked it back. So if you were wondering about that.
I wasn't, but thank you.
Oh, you weren't?
No.
Okay. So anyway, Elvis, and we're going to jump ahead quickly to Elvis. And when he died on August 16th, 1977. And that was at the age of 42 years old.
Not that old.
And I, myself, currently am 42 years
42,
old.
right.
So I remember as a kid looking back at what Elvis looked like
He looked
just
like an
prior
old
to
man.
He was old
Yep.
and fat
Yep.
and all drugged up.
Yep.
And now I look at it and I'm like, man, that's how old I am when he passed away. So clearly I'm doing much better than Elvis. Because
You
I'm
are
only
doing better than Elvis.
I'm only slightly overweight.
Oh.
And not as overweight, and not nearly as
You're
riddled
not-
with
you're
drugs.
You're not puffy. He was puffy.
So he actually died on the commode.
Oh.
Apparently, the way that he was found is that it looked like he was going to the bathroom, died, and then fell forward face first.
You know, that's one of my worst fears is that I'm going to die on the toilet.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want. Everybody has to die. You know, it's going to happen at some point. But you don't want to die in the toilet. And then somebody has to pick that up. And
Sure.
You don't want that.
But I guess he was in the same position, like he was just crouched down, and he'd been on the floor.
I'd be like a bear and go off into the woods and just and die alone in peace.
I'd like to die in a creative way.
No.
I'd like to live a ripe old age, but I think when I'm old, I think what I would like to have happen would either be to be run over by a locomotive or possibly eaten by tigers.
You don't want it to say in your death certificate, death by sexual misadventure.
No. If I'm like 100, that would be kind of interesting. So supposedly the cause of death, and there was some controversy surrounding that. They say that originally they ruled it as a heart attack.
No, but they rule everything as a heart attack because that's what happens. Your heart stops. That's why you
Exactly.
die.
There's really only two ways you can die.
Yeah.
Either it's loss of blood and blood pressure, or you have a central nervous system interruption. That's really it.
Either the brain goes or your heart goes.
That's right. But anyway, we all know that supposedly he had like 14 different kinds of drugs in his system. All kinds of different prescription pills and drugs and things of that sort.
Now, let me ask you this, and I'm sorry if this deviates from the topic, but you know a lot about Elvis that I don't know. Did he have like legit medical issues that required medication, or was he just addicted to pain meds, or recreationally? Because a lot of times people start because they have an injury or something along those lines.
You know what? I don't know for sure, but I think I do remember hearing a story that's how it originally started.
Yeah.
And then obviously it just progressed from there. And as we know, that's a big problem this day and age
course,
as well.
right.
The opioid issues that people
Well,
have.
that's because you could just walk into a doctor's office, say something hurts, and they give you a script for pain meds.
Sure. Make it too easy. But anyway, some of the theories are that the reason he would fake his death is because, like we talked earlier, supposedly he was involved in the mafia. And he was afraid of a mafia-type hit. He owed him money or something, or he
Why
was
was he
involved
involved with the mafia? He was like the most famous person in the world.
Supposedly he got involved with them in some way, and he thought that he was going to be killed by them. So in order to do that, he faked his death.
Okay.
And he went into hiding so that he couldn't be found by the mafia and be killed in that way.
Okay.
So, but it started, the Elvis is alive theories started shortly after his death, when supposedly a sighting of Elvis happened at the Memphis airport, and a gentleman that looked like him by the name of John Burroughs got on a plane to Buenos Aires.
He's going to hang out with Hitler and Joseph Mengele.
That's right. That's exactly right.
What the hell?
And that's where it first started. Somebody said they saw Hitler. They saw Elvis getting on a plane in Memphis. That'd be funny if Hitler was on a plane in Memphis.
That would be funny.
And he was hanging out at Graceland with Elvis. That would be interesting.
They probably wouldn't have got along.
So that's where it first started. And then from years and years, and I remember what got me super involved and interested in this as a youth was I was friends with a kid named Keith Garno.
Hopefully Keith listens to
Hopefully
the show.
he's listening to the program. Wherever
I remember
he is.
Keith. He was a great dude.
Wherever he is, I hope he's listening.
Yeah.
But he was very advanced musically
Yeah.
for his age.
Knew a lot of stuff.
And he was into different things. But he got me into the Elvis is alive theory. And we used to get these newspapers. I don't even know if they still make them. They were called the Weekly World News.
Oh, that's the one with like the Bat Child and.
That's right. It was like a tabloid you get at the
I don't
supermarket.
think they make that anymore.
And they for years, many episodes or issues in the 80s and 90s, would put these Elvis is alive pictures, and it'd be an old picture of Elvis with gray hair and a beard and stuff like that. So we got into trying to figure out, was he really alive? That's where my love of this came from.
Okay.
And one of the theories is that, so if you look at Elvis's tombstone, right, it has his three names on it.
Have you ever been there?
No, I haven't.
Oh, me neither.
Elvis Aaron Presley, Aaron being his middle name.
Okay.
Supposedly the real way that you spell his name is Aron, but on his tombstone it's spelled Aaron.
Well, the normal spelling is 2 A's.
That's right. But he's
Aaron.
apparently his was spelled Aron, and they did that so that you could say, hey, well, actually Elvis isn't really in this tomb because it's not his real name. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And then there was
a lot of weird stuff related to his funeral too, wasn't there?
That's right. That's right. Supposedly he witnessed his own funeral. There's the famous pool
What's wrong
man.
with you? You keep having to.
I have something in my throat.
What's wrong with you?
I have this hut tea here.
Yeah, but it's not helping.
No, it's a
You're
hut
ruining
tea.
everything.
No, it's a hut tea.
No.
It's hot. It's a tea.
It's not hot. It's hot.
Hold on.
Not hut.
Hey, hut. Listen.
Hut tea.
Can you hear this? Hold on. Can you hear me talking into the teacup? Hold on.
You should do tea commercials.
So good.
Actually, you shouldn't because it's not helping you.
Of course it is.
No.
So there was the famous pool sighting. Apparently, there was a picture of a man hanging out by Elvis's pool house, and after his death, and everybody said that it was him.
If he did fake his own death, would he hang out at his own house?
No, maybe.
Pretty stupid.
There were a lot of sightings at him, believe it or not, in a place in Hong Kong called Lan Kwao Fong's Entertainment Hub,
Oh, I've been there.
and that was in the 90s.
I've been there in the 90s.
Have you?
No.
What's going on there?
I don't know. I've never been to Hong Kong.
No. Here's one of the craziest theories, and this is the Home Alone theory.
Home Alone.
Do you remember the movie Home Alone
Of course
with
I remember.
Macaulay Culkin?
Yes.
From 1990.
Yep.
Supposedly he made an appearance in this film, and there's a part where they're
What?
Yeah. So there's a part where they're in the airport, and what was Macaulay Culkin's name in that movie? What was it? Do you remember?
I don't remember his name.
Oh, you gotta
little
remember.
kid, though.
Anyway, the mother's name was Kate,
She was hot.
and there's a part where
Catherine O'Hara.
there's a part where she's
Is that her name, Catherine O'Hara?
I don't know.
I think so.
She's at the airport, the ticket counter at the airport, frantically,
Yes.
and if you look in the background, there's actually a still of this.
Okay.
You look in the background, there's a picture of a bearded man that looks much like Elvis.
His name was Kevin.
And he's just
by the way.
standing there. It was Kevin, yeah.
Kevin, sorry.
You're right. It came. So if you look at the photo, actually, I looked at it last night.
Yeah.
It actually looks like Elvis.
So why would the film? Okay, because you've been on film sets.
Yeah.
Everything is controlled.
Yes.
So they would know who was in the background of their shot.
Well, he came in as an extra.
Oh, okay. So he signed up and he got
As
paid.
John Burroughs.
He got paid the $80
He
for the day.
flew in from Buenos Aires
Oh.
and stood in the background. But he actually looks better in the Home Alone movie than he would have when he was still alive. He's got a beard.
Yeah.
And you can compare the two photos. He resembles Elvis, a younger Elvis with a beard.
There's a lot of fan theories about the Home Alone movies.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into them because that's a show in and of itself. We talked a little bit about it with the Scooby-Doo fan theories about it being a conspiracy and all that stuff.
Yes.
There's stuff about Home Alone too.
Oh.
Like that the father was in the mafia and the robbers, Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern were like mafia enforcers.
Oh.
I don't know. This is whole big...
Interesting.
People read way too much into
They
this
do.
stuff.
What about Uncle Buck? Was there any hidden messages in that movie?
Uncle Buck, everybody loves that. I didn't think it was that good. I like John Candy. I wasn't really a big fan. I think John Candy's best movie was Summer Rental. Summer Rental
That was good.
great.
Oh, his wife was good looking.
His wife was hot. His daughter was hot.
Yeah.
What was her name? Carrie
I don't know.
Green, I think her name was. She was in Goonies.
No.
Yes,
oh,
she
that's
was.
right. That's right.
She
You're
was in
right.
Goonies,
yes, you're
man.
right.
She
You're
was
right.
awesome.
That's right.
I wonder what happened to her.
She's old now.
She's older.
Yeah, we're all old. Anyway, I think one of the biggest pieces of evidence that people were using that Elvis was alive was that back in the late 70s, early 80s, early to mid 80s, there was an artist, a musical artist, and he went by the secret name of Orion or Orion.
Orion or Orion?
That's however you want to say it. And he went by that one name,
Okay.
Orion. And he put out many albums. And he kind of looked like Elvis, but he was a masked Elvis.
Oh, we put a mask on.
He had like a mask on his face, like just covering his eyes and his nose.
Okay.
But the hair looked similar. And if you
You don't think he did that on purpose?
Oh, of course. But if you listen to the guy sing, He's Elvis reincarnated.
Oh.
He sounds just like him.
So was it new music or did he do covers?
Both.
Oh.
Yeah, both. So myself, and Keith Garno in his bedroom as youths experimenting with things.
What else did you do?
We used to take Orion album covers, and we used to take magnifying glasses and look at them and try to pick out the similarities between Orion and Elvis.
Did you ever find anything?
Well, we looked at his teeth, and we're like, oh, the teeth match up. But, of course, there was no evidence in that because we didn't know what the hell we were doing.
I was going to say, are you suddenly dental experts?
But it turns out, and obviously this was before the age of the internet, so nobody could figure out who the hell Orion was. But nowadays, if you type in Orion into Google, you will find out that he was a guy by the name of Jimmy Ellis.
Who was an Elvis impersonator.
Pretty much. He didn't start out that way. He started out as a legitimate musician back in the 50s and 60s. He does sound an awful lot like Elvis. If you closed your eyes and just listened, you would think it was Elvis.
You know what I think? It just brings up an interesting thing that has nothing to do with our topic. You know what a tribute band is? You've heard tribute bands that
Yes.
They do their best to sound and look and act just like famous. Now, it's unbelievable how good a lot of these musicians are.
Yes.
They're great musicians in their own right. But why do they spend so much time to try to sound like somebody else? Why don't they do their own thing?
Well, that's their musical niche. You know what I mean?
No, I feel bad.
Maybe they're happy doing
because
that.
they're probably great. They could probably create their own great stuff.
Well, you know what? That's the problem, though, is that not necessarily everybody can create good stuff that people want to listen to, original stuff. You know what I mean? Trust me, I've tried, and I've had little success to known. Yeah, but anyway, so poor Jimmy Ellis, he died, actually, in 1998. He was shot during a robbery.
Oh, no.
At his own pawn shop.
We ran a pawn
Jimmy's
shop.
pawn shop in, I forget where that was.
Probably Las Vegas.
Alabama, maybe? I don't know. Somewhere down south.
Oh, that's too bad.
And but so Jimmy Ellis was not Elvis. Jimmy Ellis was not Elvis.
No.
So I do believe Elvis is dead. I think he died, as we stated earlier, on the commode with his last piece of kingly evidence floating in the toilet behind him.
A la Dennis Leary.
And then that's it.
All right. Well, we have one more topic, one more fake death story to talk about before the end of the program today. Should I just dive right in?
Dive into it, man. We got plenty of time here.
So you've heard of The Doors, the famous rock
Frank's
band,
from the Door Store?
almost like Frank, except more famous.
Okay.
You've heard of The Doors. If you've heard a Doors song, you know you've heard a Doors song. They had a very unique sound.
Oh, you ready? Ready? Here's my Jim Morrison impression.
Yeah.
Riders on the storm. Riders on the storm.
Well, you sound just like them.
How's that?
Pretty good.
All right.
Anyway, so the Doors were a band, obviously back in the late '60s, early '70s, and they had a very, very unique sound to them. But they had an even more unique lead singer, one Jim Morrison.
Yes.
Morrison was an enigmatic man. He was deep and spiritual, and he had lots of problems with authority, as a lot of rock musicians do for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
In 1967, soon after inking their first record deal, Morrison became the first rock star ever to be arrested on stage during a show.
Didn't he pull out his wiener?
Aha. Prior to this show in New Haven, Connecticut, December 1967, Jim Morrison was making out with a female fan in a bathroom when a cop happened upon them, a police officer. The cops told him to move on. He didn't recognize Morrison. He wasn't really famous at the time. He told him to move on, at which point Jim looked at the cop and said, "Eat it."
Uh-oh.
The cop didn't like that, so he maced him.
And that was back in the day when cops could beat you and get
Yeah,
away
they
with
would
it.
just beat you for no reason. So he maced him. So the show was delayed for an hour, but while Jim recovered from his macings. At which point, when the show started, Morrison got on stage and began an expletive-laden rant against the police, who then decided that they had enough and they arrested him on stage. Morrison was taken to a local police station, photographed, and booked on charges of inciting a riot, indecency, and public obscenity. That's the most rock and roll story ever.
Yep.
So you're making out with a groupie, you tell the cop to go screw, you get maced, you recover, you go on stage, and you rip the man, and then you go to jail.
You go to jail.
That's a pretty cool
all the
story.
while high as a kite.
Right. So Morrison was a heavy drinker and a drug user, and he was known for his unpredictable antics on stage, sometimes taking long breaks in the middle of songs while the band continued to play behind him. You ever hear some of those Doors songs that go on forever? It's all instrumental and stuff, and you know that's the part where Jim laid down and wouldn't get back up.
Exactly. There's some rare video of him just laying around, rolling around on the ground.
Imagine being in the band and you're like, do we keep playing?
With his leather
or
pants on.
Do we stop?
I don't look good in leathers, dude.
Leather pants?
Leathers.
Who looks good in leather pants?
I have leather pants. I have a leather pants, leather belt.
Only Jim Morrison.
I have a leather vest that I wear on occasion, and leather boots, and a leather bowler cap.
Nothing wrong with that. Anyway, Jim Morrison was uncomfortable with fame, and he decided he devolved into heroin use and had a bunch of run-ins with the law due to his lewd acts on stage. Jim Morrison's career was actually only a few years. They really started to become famous in 1967, and by 1971, it was all over.
You know, Jim Morrison's father was a high-ranking admiral in the U.S. Navy.
I did not know that.
He was.
Morrison's downfall began at a 1969 concert in Florida when he was accused of exposing his genitalia in front of the audience. He pulled out his package and waved it at
I
everyone.
wonder what it looked like.
I don't know. Afterwards, he was convicted of indecent exposure and profanity, leading many promoters to start canceling shows for the band. So this was 1969, just a couple years after they started. By March 1971, Morrison's troubles had followed him, and he had moved to Paris with his girlfriend, Pamela Corson. While in Paris, it was the Doors frontman gained so much weight that he became almost unrecognizable, leading a lot of people to believe that his health was in danger. He blew up like a balloon eating those Paris pastries.
Sure.
Who wouldn't? Early in the morning of July 3rd, 1971, he was found dead in the bathroom of the apartment that he shared with Pamela Corson. She called the authorities, but they arrived too late to revive him. He was declared dead of heart failure brought on by heroin use.
Mm-hmm.
However, no autopsy was ever performed because, according to French law, if there's no foul play evident, then they don't do an autopsy. I don't know if it's that way now, but that's the way it was back then.
Okay. Our friends, the French.
Right. So some crazy theories started to move around that Jim Morrison faked his own death to escape the public life. You okay over there?
Yeah, I'm good.
What the hell are you doing? Some suggest that Jim Morrison is living in New York City, still reciting poetry. He was a poet. You ever listen to some of the? It's very esoteric, and the Doors songs are very.
It's like spoken word.
Spirituals. Yeah, it's not really singing. A lot of it is mostly.
Hold on, let me see if I can come up with something quick.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
There stood long was the tall person with a styrofoam, and the sun beat down on my head for thus forever. And then here we are today, now again around the moon, and goodbye. How was that?
Not very good. Out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate. That's the kind of.
Did you make that up?
No.
Oh.
So some people think that he's still alive in New York City. Others believe that he moved to Oregon, and opened up it's actually called the Jim Morrison Sanctuary Ranch.
Hot yoga? Do they do hot yoga there?
Under the name of Bill Lawyer. Hot yoga.
Oh, goat yoga?
There are some people say that he's still out there and he's being as weird as he was back in the 60s. Probably not.
You know what would be amazing and awesome?
What?
Is if that was actually true.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden he just came back to the public
Here
eye
I
after all
am.
these years. An old bearded Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
Started tearing it up
You know,
on stage again.
Did you see the Doors film, the Oliver Stone film?
That was
with
a good movie.
Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
Very good movie. Val Kilmer, I thought, played a great Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
And what happened to Val Kilmer, dude? He was awesome. Back in the 90s, or 80s and 90s, he was great.
He's going around doing spoken word crap now, too, I think.
He started eating his co-stars and
did.
became very fat.
He did.
I don't know what he's doing nowadays.
You know, that reminds me of, so as you just stated, the Doors movie, right?
Yeah.
So there's been a number of musical biography movies over the years that actors have portrayed famous musicians, right? Some of them are really good.
Yeah.
And they actually play and sing all the songs. And I think Val Kilmer was one of them, to be honest. I think he sang those songs.
I don't know that he did.
I think he did. You know who was
Okay.
another one? Was Jamie Foxx, when he played Ray Charles.
Yep.
He played the piano and he did the singing.
Joaquin Phoenix played Johnny Cash. Actually, supposedly, Johnny Cash himself picked Joaquin Phoenix to play himself.
Oh.
And he did his singing.
Was he still alive then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he picked his Joaquin Phoenix sang his own songs in that movie. Which
Right.
They're pretty good.
Right, yeah.
So
the newest one now is the Freddie Mercury, the Queen,
Who
Queen
plays
movie
Freddie
coming
Mercury?
out. I don't know. Some no-name guy.
Oh.
But he's got a nice mustache. So that's the key. Once you nail the mustache, you've nailed Freddie Mercury.
That mustache was pretty iconic.
You be careful when you nail Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, you might end up with something.
You got anything else you want to add about this?
No, I just think it was an interesting program about people faking their own deaths. Don't get any ideas from it, though. You really can't escape your responsibilities by doing that.
No, you can't. And if you get caught, you get in trouble, I think, right?
You get in trouble for yeah, it's a crime. It's fraud. Because everyone has insurance policies.
That's right.
And everything of the sort, so there would be some sort of financial.
Okay.
All
right, so good show, man. That was fun. I like talking about music stuff.
Yep.
And, of course, we had a musical act, The Overseas Love Crisis,
Yep.
which we enjoyed quite amazing.
Yes.
Good sound.
Yep.
So go check them out. Also, if you have anything you want to add to our program, feel free to contact us at TheEoNProject@yahoo.com.
Yes.
And you can search us up on iTunes and leave us a nice review so you can get a free guitar out of it.
Free guitar.
And you know what? I'm going to just
Can I win the free guitar?
I'm going to keep leaving my own reviews.
I don't. You know what? It would be wasted on me because I have no musical abilities.
Well, you can give it to me.
I could.
How's that?
Sounds like good.
Are we going to come back next week with something new and interesting?
Something new and interesting. Got some things working in the works and works.
Working it.
Yep.
Are you going to work it tonight?
Maybe. Might be doing it right now.
Oh, put your pants on. All right. Until next time, just remember, the truth exists. Believe it.